If you've ever found yourself just staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning, you know that feeling, that desperate search for a good night's sleep. But in a world with endless options, from pills to plants, how do you find something that actually works, without that dreaded next day fog? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut right through the noise to find some real answers. And just to be clear, this is not some small niche problem. We're talking about 50 to 70 million Americans who are dealing with chronic sleep disorders. I mean, just let that number sink in. That is a staggering amount of people just trying to get some decent rest. It's basically a public health crisis that's hiding in plain sight. So what do most people do? Well, a lot of us reach for those common, conventional sleep aids. But that really begs the question you see right here. Are we just trading one problem for another? You know what I'm talking about. That risk of dependency, the grogginess the next day, and just that lingering feeling that you didn't get truly restorative sleep. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the sleep crisis dilemma. Then we're going to talk about moving beyond the high. After that, you'll meet the real sleep trio. We'll go through a smart buyer's guide. And finally, we'll look at what it really means to wake up feeling refreshed. Let's dive in. All right, first up, the sleep crisis dilemma. This is all about the hidden costs, not just of a bad night's sleep, but also of the so-called solutions that we often turn to. Yeah, when you take a closer look at traditional sleeping pills, the problems get pretty clear pretty fast. It's not just about the risk of addiction. These pills can actually mess with your sleep architecture, which is a fancy way of saying you get less of that crucial, deep, restorative sleep. And that leads directly to that next day brain fog. Plus, over time, you end up needing higher and higher doses just to get the same effect. And that's exactly why so many people are looking for natural alternatives, which, you guessed it, often leads them to cannabis. But this is where a huge misconception comes into play. So let's talk about debunking the myth that you have to get high to get better sleep. When a lot of people hear cannabis for sleep, their minds immediately jumped to high THC products, things like Delta 8 or Delta 9. The thinking is, I just need to get knocked out, right? But here's the crucial question. What if just being sedated isn't the same thing as getting a high-quality natural sleep? What if that high is actually getting in the way? This chart just lays out the difference perfectly. Over on one side, you've got THC. Yeah, it's intoxicating, but research shows it can actually suppress your REM sleep, which is vital for things like memory and emotional health. And that's what often leads to that groggy feeling the next day. But then on the other side, you've got this sleep trio, CBD, CBN, and CBG. They are totally non-intoxicating, they work with your body's natural sleep cycles, and the result? A clear-headed morning. So let's properly meet these three compounds, shall we? Because these are really at the heart of a much smarter approach to sleep, one that works with your body, not against it. First up is CBD, and I love this nickname, the Anxious Mind Soother. What's so fascinating about CBD is that it doesn't work like a typical sleeping pill. It's not a direct sedative. Instead, it helps you sleep by tackling the very things that are keeping you awake, that racing mind, that constant low-level stress, and even physical pain. Next in the trio is CBN. Now, this one is a more direct player in the sleep game. It often gets called the sleepy cannabinoid, but honestly, a better name might be the stay asleep cannabinoid. Recent human trials have shown that it's fantastic at reducing how often you wake up during the night. And for anyone who can fall asleep just fine but can't stay asleep, that is an absolute game changer. And here is the really key detail from that research. The effective dose they used in a major 2023 human trial was 20 milligrams. Now, this is so important because if you look at a lot of products out there, they have these tiny little amounts like 2 or 5 milligrams, which is probably not enough to do much of anything. The science is pointing to 20 milligrams. That's the number to look for. And rounding out our trio is CBG, the body relaxer. While the direct sleep research on this one is still coming out, we know it plays a huge role in tackling the physical stuff that keeps you up at night. By helping with inflammation and anxiety, it calms your body down, creating the perfect conditions for sleep to just happen naturally. Okay, so we know the players now, but how do you actually go out and find a quality product that's going to work for you? This is where we get really practical. First thing you have to understand is something called the entourage effect. It's this really powerful idea that all the different compounds in the plant, the cannabinoids, the aromatic terpenes, they all work better together. The analogy here is perfect. Think of a symphony. Each instrument is playing its own part, but the sound you get from the whole orchestra is way richer and more complex than any single note could ever be.
And that brings us to your first big choice, the spectrum. As you can see, full spectrum gives you that maximum entourage effect, but, and this is a big but, it has trace amounts of THC, which could be a risk if you get drug tested. Broad spectrum is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of people. The THC is taken out, but all the other good stuff is still there, so you get a really strong entourage effect with very little risk. And finally, you've got isolate, which is just one pure cannabinoid all by itself, so you get no entourage effect at all.
So no matter which one you choose, you absolutely need this checklist. Number 1, always look for a third-party lab test. It's often called a certificate of analysis, or COA. This is completely non-negotiable. Second, check the actual cannabinoid content in milligrams. Does it have that 20 milligrams of CBN we just talked about? And third, be crystal clear on what spectrum you're actually getting. All right, let's bring all of this together and talk about what the future of good sleep really looks like. Because it's not about just being knocked unconscious. It's about waking up feeling genuinely restored and ready to go. So here it is, your clear path forward. For most people, starting with a broad spectrum product is the safest bet, especially if you have any concerns about THC. Then, look for a formula that combines CBD with an effective dose of CBN. Remember that 20 milligram number. After that, the golden rule. Start low and go slow with your dose. And finally, track your results. Paying attention to how your body responds is the absolute best way to find what works perfectly for you. And this quote just captures the entire shift in thinking perfectly. We are moving away from that old model of using these heavy sedatives to force our bodies into an unnatural state. The future is about using smart, targeted compounds as optimizers, tools that help support your body's own natural ability to get deep, restorative sleep. So I'm going to leave you with this final question to think about. We spend so much time and energy focusing on our daily performance, our productivity, our mood. But what if the real secret to unlocking a great day has nothing to do with what you do when you're awake and has everything to do with truly understanding and supporting how you sleep the night before?